Hi everyone, let's talk about citing sources. I know it's not a fun topic, but it's an important topic because we need to give credit to others where credit is due. When should we be citing when we're writing? We should be citing any and all material that you use when writing your documents. So this includes any time you're quoting word for word, you're paraphrasing, you're summarizing ideas that you found online or in other text materials that you heard in a TikTok, that you heard on YouTube. We should be citing that information. We also want to cite anytime we're discussing data. So that could be raw data that you've used to do your own analyses. It could be statistics from other organizations or key dates or other information that is measurable and stated elsewhere on the internet. We also want to cite anytime we're using anybody else's ideas to help us formulate our ideas. So if your ideas are kind of inspired by something that you heard elsewhere or that you read, then we want to cite that too. We also need to be citing anyone who deserves credit for the ideas that we wrote. So what if you already knew something and didn't need to consult the material? Well, if it came from your own brain or is common knowledge, then we don't really need to be citing it. So your own personal experiences, naturally, things the everyday person would know, you don't need to cite. However, if the idea was coined by somebody else, we want to cite that person and give them credit for having coined or created or brought our attention to this phrase and this phenomenon. What if somebody told you something kind of casually via email or personal conversation that you want to cite? For example, if you wanted to cite a lecture in class, you would cite it as personal communication. So on the slide here, I have an example of what that would look like. You put the first initial of the person, their last name, comma, personal communication, and then the date from which you received that. And you only need to cite a personal conversation in text. All right, you've got this lovely source that you want to cite in your references list. What information do you need? Well, first you need to start by listing the authors. And in APA, we can list up to and including 20 authors. And we invert that author's name. So we list their last name first, comma, first initial, period, space, middle initial, period. Each author, if there are multiple, should be separated by a comma. If there are only two authors, then we would do the first author, comma, ampersand, and then the second author. Then we're going to put the date in parentheses with a period after. When you're citing academic journal articles, we want that to be just the year. However, for most other online and print materials, we want to list the month and the date as well. So you would do year, comma, month written out, and date as a number, period at the end. Then you will write out the title of the piece that you consulted. So we're only going to capitalize the first word after a colon, and then any proper nouns, no italics, no bold, no underline. Then we want to list the source of that material. Who published it? What website did you locate it on? That we're going to include in italics, and it's a proper noun since it's a publisher or an organization or a database. You've got your entry for your references list. Now let's format the references list itself. You're going to start your references on a brand new page of your document. It should start right at the top of your document, and we want to type out the word references, center it, and put it in bold at the top. Then we're going to make sure our whole page is double spaced with no extra spaces in between, no indentations after the paragraphs, nothing. We're going to start each entry on a brand new line in our references list, and then each entry gets a hanging indent. That means the first line of the entry starts flushed all the way over to the left, then the second line and any lines after that, so third line, fourth line, fifth line, those will get a 0.5-inch indent. So that's like a paragraph tab. We also then want to remove any blue text or underlining on our hyperlinks. We don't want to see that blue. Everything on your page should be black and there should be no underlining. All right, so I've got some academic journal articles cited for you on the slide here. You can see that they all begin with the first author's last name. And that last name is what we're using to order our list alphabetically. Then we've got our dates. These are all academic journal articles, so their dates are just the years. You see each of their titles is written out, and only the proper nouns are capitalized, along with the first word and the first word after a comma. So campfire is capitalized because that's a proper noun. Facebook is a proper noun. The second title is pretty much all not capitalized because it only has the first word of the title. Then in the third entry, we have a colon, so we're going to capitalize that first word after the colon. And in the last entry, Superstorm Sandy, that is a proper noun also, so we capitalize that there. Then we've got our publisher in italics. We also have the volume number and the issue number and the page number. So that's additional details that we provide for an academic journal article that we might not have for a popular press article that you find online or a website that you find online. Then we really want to include a link to where our reader can find that information online. And again, we're not bluing that or underlining it, it's just regular text too. Now that you've got your references list done, let's talk about those in-text citations. How do you let the reader know when and where you're consulting information in your paper? Well, we're using in-text citations using parentheticals to do that. Even if you're paraphrasing, summarizing, putting something in your own words, we still need to cite when that information comes from somebody else. So you can see here, according to Benedict, dogs are cute. That's one way of doing it. You can write out your author's last name if you'd like in text. Otherwise, you can put both pieces of information in the parenthetical. Whenever you're citing something in text, we always need that first piece of your reference in the references list and then the year. In some cases, we're going to provide a little bit more. So if I had two other authors along with me saying that dogs are cute, it would be Benedict et al. Period, 2022. If we're quoting word for word, we still need the author, but we also need the date, like in the last one, and the page number. Anytime you're quoting something word for word, we need the page number. If the source that you're consulting doesn't have page numbers, then we need to look for a paragraph number, so literally counting through the document. If you're quoting a long passage, which is considered 40 words or more in APA, then you need to use what is called a block quotation. I encourage you to look up block quotation, and what that basically means is that the whole quote itself is set aside from your paragraph. It's on a new line altogether, and then each line is tabbed in with that 0.5-inch paragraph indentation. So the whole quote is indented further than the rest of your paper. Then with your citation, you can either put it in the sentence leading up to the quotation or at the very end, but you're still going to need to include that page number. Finally, if you're writing multiple sentences about the same source, you only need a formal in-text citation once. However, it needs to be very clear to the reader what other information is coming from that source. So in the example that's provided on the slide, you can see, according to Benedict and Hildenbrand, canine companions are adorable. They also argue rabbit roommates are delightful. So that they is referring to what comes in the previous sentence, so it's very clear there. However, sometimes it gets a little vague, so you might need to recite your source if it won't be absolutely clear to the reader that that information is still coming from the same source. There's lots of other nuances involved in citing sources, so I encourage you to consult the Purdue OWL, O-W-L, for more information on citing in APA as well as MLA. There's also the APA Style blog that's by the American Psychological Association that can give you even more information about weird things that you might not be sure how to cite, like YouTube videos or newspaper clippings or posts on social media. Good luck!